So I had no idea that there was another release on the same day that Froeva got released from actually Run for Cover Records. I was familiar. I'm only familiar with Runner by name. I heard one song from theirs on Spotify and I liked it. And to me, it just sounded like a discount Alex G song called Another Sublet. So going into this album, I was kind of thought that I was just gonna get like a discount Alex G for the most part, and that would have been kind of boring. I'm so glad that that's not what we got in the end. We got something completely unique, but also still has that same run for cover sound that and ideas that we're pretty much used to at this point. I was very pleasantly surprised with this album. It's not perfect by any means, but it does a lot that I've not heard from other bands and acts from Running for Cover Records. So let's dive into the new Runner album, A Welcome Kind of Weakness. So getting into this, the first track, Agiles and honestly, throughout this album, this guy's voice reminds me of some band, some lead singer of a band that I cannot put my finger on. But that being said, I'm just gonna ignore that. Getting into the album, the music of Achilles and reminds me of just the end of summer. It gives off that vibe. For the most part, a lot of this album kind of has a melancholy vibe to it. But this song specifically just reminded me of listening to music in high school, specifically probably like 10th or 11th grade in the fall, and whether it be like Run for Cover Records stuff, definitely like Turnover and Title Fight, a lot of that, Front Bottoms, a lot of that style of music. That's what this kind of reminds me of. It just kind of reminds me of just listening to Turnover in the fall. And I really like that song. Not my favorite, but a great way to start off the album. Next is Spackle. I thought I could do more. Which is definitely one of my favorites. More melancholy vibe to it. There's a guitar solo that's really beautiful and bitter. And honestly, that's how I describe this whole track. Just beautiful and bitter. After that, we have Chamomile. So much better for your health, but I can't rewind. The atmosphere on this track is just really beautiful. There's not another word I can really describe. It's just beautiful. There's a background twangy guitar that will come back in other songs, but it really accompanies just the beautiful atmosphere. After Chamomile is Claritin. For a moment. And there's a really interesting atmosphere in the chorus. At one point, there's a bass that you can clearly hear, it has a really nice tone to it. And then they start bringing in like there's dual vocals, having another like female like do the background vocals along with the lead singer. And it comes back again on some other tracks, but first introduction, and it really goes together well. Not much more I could say about Claritin. After that is one of the more experimental, shorter tracks called PVD. It's very change of pace completely. It's slowed down, and then it just brings in this wild, distorted atmosphere, and for some reason a clarinet and I think a saxophone at one point. And then it just turns into an ambient track for the ambient ending, and it's a really nice ending. Very interesting track. I don't know where I would score it in terms of like top tracks on this album, but it was a wild switch up. Then we get to Coinstar, which I don't have much to say outside of they bring more of the beautiful twangy guitars, like so you can hear them more. It's not as much in the background as it was in the song Chamomile, but yeah, there's not a whole lot else I can say about it. It's a fine track. Outside of the twang guitars, though, there's nothing else worth mentioning. After Coinstar, we have Get Real Sleep, which is definitely my favorite track on this album. Kill the blue light. They bring in a drum machine, and it just gave me chills along with the guitar and the drum machine. It's just the atmosphere is absolutely impeccable. Definitely one of my favorite songs of the year. Moving on to the next track, we have Split. And I still miss so high. Early mornings in the snow. Just gave me a straight up Noah Kahn vibe. I don't know, maybe I guess Stick Season. For some reason, Stick Season vibe. They bring back the dual vocals, which absolutely carried this track into a really nice sound. It kind of just reminded me a lot of just Noah Kahn, but very good with the female vocals. After that is Supplets, which is my least favorite track on this album. It's just repetitive, saying the same thing over and over again, but the atmosphere is nice. Not much else I can say. It's interesting. I understand why it's on the album, but for other songs that tend to do this, I'm just not a fan of songs that exist to be repetitive. Doesn't matter how good the music is, it's just not my cup of tea. No matter if it makes sense on the album or not, it's just not for me, but I understand why it's here. For the ending track, we have Untitled October Song. Thursday morning, walk the bike path like it's nothing. Which I'm still on the fence about whether or not I think it's a good closer to this album. I think in general, I maybe would have cut this. I would have cut this track specifically and maybe ended with Sublets. I would have been fine if Sublets was the ending for this album. But Untitled October Song kind of just seems like another addition to be like a longer length. It's a good song. It's a beautiful acoustic song. I just don't think I would have ended the album with it. I don't think it belongs on the album. Maybe it could have been used maybe the third song, maybe. I don't know. Humanly speaking, if I was to make like indie rock music, I would definitely have went for an approach that's kind of similar to this in terms of like the overall stylistic design. To describe this album, it's essentially just indie rock. There's more to it. There's like some acoustic tracks, and there's some I guess a little bit more like experimental side, like experimental, maybe even like noise rock vibes. But for the most part, like this album is genuinely just melancholy. There's a little bit of like a turnover vibe, which some people consider turnover to be, or a little bit of turnover to be shoegaze. I would consider just simple as indie rock. But there's a lot more for the atmosphere in this album compared to like Peripheral Vision, in my opinion. I think this is a fantastic album for what it is. Outside of that one track that I don't really care for, I think this is a solid 7. I don't really have. There's not really else. It didn't really do anything different compared to what I've heard. It's completely unique and in some ways, a little bit experimental, which I give more credit to compared to other shoegaze albums that I've heard from this record label. But specifically, I really enjoyed the 3 tracks that stood out the most. Especially Get Real Sleep. Get Real Sleep is an absolutely remarkable track that I've not heard from any other acts on this record label. Obviously, Keely's And could have came out from anyone. Citizen, maybe not Citizen. Turnover, definitely. Um, Maybe even a little bit of that new, the spin-off project from the lead singer of Narrowhead, whatever that one's called. But also, Spackle is kind of a track that I feel like it wouldn't have been made by any other band. Spackle's pretty unique for what it is, and I think that's probably that one and Get Real Sleep are definitely the standouts on this track, and I wasn't expecting to leave with songs that were that good, and honestly, considering to put on my top songs of the year list. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the album. That's all. Peace.